Across the Park podcast is proud to be sponsored by Globe Gas and Heating. For the best kitchen and bathroom renovations, boiler servicing and repair, and central and underfloor heating in the Northwest, head over to globecentralheating.com and quote Across the Park for a free quote.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Across the Park podcast. Myself, Judgy, delighted to be joined by Dave from Talking Wolves to preview this weekend's fixture, a massive fixture for our club. Not so much for you guys, but I'm sure you'll be just as keen to win it. Dave, welcome to the show first and foremost.
No, thank you for having me, mate. But yeah, a lot less pressure on this fixture for us, thankfully. But yeah, obviously with it being our final home game, I'm sure, well, many fans still want us to get something out of the game, but it depends if the players actually show up or not.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the recent results that we've both had just show the depth and how mad this league is. You know, yous have been hammered by Brighton 6-1. We've hammered Brighton 5-1.
Yeah.
Surely that means we win, what, 11-1, something like that?
I hope not. No, but yeah, it's strange. You know, our home form has been very good, which is why, you know, part of me thinks, you know, I'm pretty hopeful for this game. But yeah, you're right. Like against Brighton, it was arguably one of our worst performances in years, really. And then even the following week, we beat Aston Villa at home, who were knocking on the door for European football. So yeah, like you said, it's a Premier League. It's been crazy this season, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're here primarily to talk about yourselves because, you know, the viewers of our show and will be catching up with me and Millsy tomorrow when we talk the Everton angle. But I guess I just want to get a flavour from you in terms of what have been the changes under Lopetegui. You know, I'm sure you'll be, as you said at the start, you're delighted that you're out of that relegation mire and you did so with a few games to spare. What can we expect from this Wolves side, maybe versus the Wolves side that we seen at the start of last season and maybe the end of last season?
Yeah, I think under Lopetegui we look a lot more organised, a lot more confident, fitter as a team as well. I was pretty, you know, excited for Bruno Lage from the start of this season because, to be fair to Bruno Lage, last year he did a really, really good job with the players that he had. He stuck with a back five formation, which I think was predominantly to sort of keep the likes of Conor Coady in the squad as well. And he took the really brave decision. You know, we ended the last season dreadfully, by the way. You know, we got into sort of the end of January, we were knocking on the door for top four, and we ended up the season like mid-table. And he took a really brave decision, Bruno Lage, of trying to change everything. And I think for him, he probably did everything, tried to change everything too quickly. He lost a lot of big characters, Conor Coady obviously being one of those, and it just didn't work out for him. So obviously Lopetegui's come in a hell of a lot more experience, a much better man manager, I think. He commented on how unfit the squad was going into that World Cup break as well. So that's something that he, got sorted out. And although we're not a million times better, you know, we are starting to score a few more goals, which has been our main issue, and actually made our Molineux pretty much a fortress. We've only dropped points on a couple of occasions since Lopetegui came in at Molineux. So that's really what's kept us in the Premier League, if I'm honest.
Yeah, a lot of similarities, to be fair, to what we've seen at Goodison. You know, Lampard made a few changes. Obviously, Conor Coady has not particularly benefited from the appointments of the new manager, but you know, we've certainly got to say as a group of fans that, you know, he certainly his experience similar to Lopetegui, or, you know, very different managers, but Dyche brought his experience in has made us a lot more difficult to beat. It's probably got back to some of the basics that we didn't see under Lampard. But yeah, a lot of the things you're saying there, I think we've probably seen similar, you know, on our side. We just made the change a lot later than you guys did. I mean, just touch briefly, because you mentioned him obviously then, and I did. Conor Coady, I mean, he's obviously come out of the side recently, and he's come out of the side for the reason that he probably left Wolves, that we switched to a back four. I mean, personally, from my point of view, he should have at least been ahead of Michael Keane. I think the only reason he wasn't ahead of Michael Keane was because of the favouritism, that, you know, the fact that Dyche had Michael Keane before at Burnley. Were you disappointed to see Conor Coady leave Wolves?
It's a strange one, really. I think disappointed is probably too almost strong of a word, because I think everybody knew that almost Wolves were playing a back five just to keep almost Conor Coady in there. He was almost undroppable under Nuno, and that's how Nuno played. And he was, like I said, great leader. We say, in my lifetime, our two best finishes, top 7, Europa League football, all came under the Conor Coady as captain. So, I can't take anything away from him. But for Wolves to take the next step as a football club, I think you can only, the back five was holding us back a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a very brave decision for Bruno Lage to sort of allow him to lead the club. So, for nostalgia, I was disappointed, I suppose. But in terms of him as a quality of a player, I wasn't too worried about missing him. And I know for last seasons, Conor Coady started off the season quite well with Everton, and we were quite, Wolves were playing quite badly, and then it sort of flipped. He's out the Everton team, and Wolves have seemed to improve slightly. So I'll be very intrigued to see what happens with him in the summer. Obviously, before Christmas, it sounded like it was a cert that he was going to be staying at Everton, and obviously, from your point of view, I don't know if you know any different, but I'm not sure if he's going to be at Goodison next season.
Similar, mate. I'm not too sure. I mean, he ended the game on the pitch against Man City, but that was simply because we switched to a back five, and you seen him come on, and he was just doing typical Conor Coady things straight away, and everything, and he was bossing it, and he looks a player, doesn't he? When you sit him in the middle of that back five as a sweeper, he looks a serious player. But I don't think Dyche has ever been someone who's preferred a back 3/back 5. So it will be an interesting one. I mean, I personally, for the same reasons that you probably would have not minded him staying at the club, I'd like to see him staying there because he's an Evertonian. He is a leader. I'm sure he's a very positive influence on the dressing room. He does give you that option to flip to a back 3 or back 5, but it's whether Conor Coady, is happy to accept that. I mean, I'm not sure he will be, but maybe there's that. Maybe there's that sway of his family and his friends living on Merseyside. Maybe that's something that might be a sway. But yeah, it's an interesting one. We'll certainly keep an eye on it. I'm sure you will, because you probably don't want a player back on your books who's just going to be a spare part.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Obviously, Lopetegui's not really had a look at him, so maybe that's something that he'll look at. But I'd be very surprised to see him start the first game of next season as a Wolves player. A lot of people, sort of whispers and fans from the Wolves' point of view reckon that he could go to Sheffield United. He was a player there before. Obviously, they would. I think they do play a back 5 as well, so it'd be perfect for somebody like that, really. So, and I think for his own sake, if he wants to stay in the England setup, then he's going to have to be playing Premier League football. Southgate obviously likes him, I think, for all that stuff behind the scenes. So for him, he's obviously going to want to be playing football wherever he can.
It's a great shout, actually. He'd fit right in there, definitely. Okay, we'll move on to the players that we have been favoured, or we have been favouring, so to speak. You're, as you said, you've done very well at home, or a lot better at home.
Yeah.
Under Lopetegui. Actually, there's only yourselves and Southampton who scored less goals than us, and that was only the Brighton one that tipped it slightly in favour. What can we expect as an Everton visiting team visiting Molineux this weekend? Where do you think you guys win the game?
I think we've really been, and it surprised me mainly over the last couple of months worth of home games, that Wolves have actually come out the blocks quite quickly and started off the games brightly, whereas before it would take Wolves a hell of a long time to grow into a match. But there's games against Crystal Palace, Chelsea, Liverpool, where we've won at home, where we've scored really early on, and Wolves have just almost got this knack of being able to see a game out and sit on a lead for a long amount of time, especially at home. So I think if Everton want any joy out of this game, they've got to try and restrict Wolves for as long as they can, or even, score an early goal themselves and make life difficult for Wolves. So that's the thing. We've seen the last few weeks, like I've said, started off quite brightly. But for whatever reason, I don't know what it is. Away, we've only won twice all season. We've got absolutely awful form away from home. But yeah, Molineux is where we've been gaining the points. But last week, and we might talk about it a little bit more later. Last week against United, you could tell almost Wolves' job was done. They didn't look interested. So I'll be intrigued. This is our first home game, mathematically safe in the Premier League. So I'll be interested to see how the players, turn up for that game.
Yeah, that I guess that was going to be my next question. You've just touched on it. Then psychologically, it does make a difference. I think history tells you that once players, a group of players, a squad, even to a certain extent, a manager have got over the line. You know, the term, you know, the players are on the beach or they've got the flip-flops on, they're looking towards next season. I mean, I guess at home there'll be less of a tendency to do that, but is that a slight fear for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a concern, definitely. I think the only almost sort of saving grace in the back of my mind is that there's probably going to be a lot of players that take part on Saturday that it could be their last game at Molineux. So I'm hoping they're going to be up for it a little bit more. We saw a couple of players come on at Old Trafford, but there's going to be a number of players. Ruben Neves may be one. Raul Jimenez, although I don't think he'll start, will probably come on. It'll probably be his last game at Molineux. So there's going to be a lot of players there that are going to be up for it. And with it being our final home game, I'm sure they won't want to do the lap at the end of around the ground at the end of the game after a defeat. So part of me is hoping that obviously that they are going to be up for this game. But I know it's going to be extremely difficult. And I know Sean Dyche has tended to get the better of Wolves throughout his career, especially at Burnley. We've always found it very, very difficult against him. So I'm sure he'll make life extremely tricky on Saturday.
Well, I know the narrative around Ruben Neves, but just excuse me ignorance on Raul Jimenez. What's happened there? Is it?
Well, there's a few players really, and it's almost Wolves are trying to almost come away completely off from the Nuno squad as such. You know, we've got the Nuno squad there. Bruno Lage, I think, tried to take some elements away from that squad. But obviously, Jimenez is a really strange one because since his injury against Arsenal, you know, he was out for the rest of that season a couple of years ago, came back last year and never really got going. This year, started off the first few games, but then was really struggled to get fitness basically, and then he basically stayed out of the Wolves squad between maybe, let's say, mid-September all the way up to the World Cup because he wanted to get fit for the World Cup. That was his priority. He wasn't really interested about Wolves. He just wanted to be fit because it is potentially going to be his final World Cup. Mexican fans weren't that impressed with that anyway. They didn't feel like he should be in the squad if he wasn't playing games. And Lopetegui addressed it on his first press conference as well. So I think his card was pretty much marked from day one under Lopetegui, saying that Wolves should be your number one priority. You know, you should be getting fit to play games for this football club. And he has started matches under Lopetegui, but really struggled to score goals and get involved. We beat Spurs a couple of months ago at home, and he played that game, and I thought he was fantastic. And I was rubbing my hands together, thinking, right,
he's back.
Literally. You know, it wasn't even about him in front of goal. His link-up play, he got the assist for the goal. Like, he was putting chances on a plate for players. And we're just not seen a performance like that since. So his missus has been putting cryptic tweets out, basically digging out the club as well, which is not what you need. So he's got a year left on his deal. I think we'll also try and cash in the summer.
It's another similarity. We've obviously had issues massively with our number 9 this year, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and he's been back in recent weeks. Thankfully, he got taken off at the weekend. It was only a precaution. Rumour has it that he wanted to stay on, but the manager said, look, it's not worth risking you. But we've seen the same, in terms of he's been in and out the team through a lack of fitness, and we've not been able to. It's so difficult, isn't it, when you haven't got a number 9 that is playing with confidence and is firing. As you said, then even if they're not scoring, the link-up play alone is so important, isn't it? I mean, you've kind of half filled the gap with Diego Costa and etc., but it's not quite the same, is it?
No. Again, the Costa one was interesting, and he struggled to get goals, but thankfully the last few weeks he has added that sort of link-up plays. He sort of formed this sort of relationship with Matheus Cunha, so he's definitely helped with that. But again, there's a lot of Wolves fans hoping that he signs another contract, but I just don't see the point of it because next season he's not going to be my first choice number 9, and I wouldn't really have faith in him coming off the bench for 20 minutes at the end of the game, really. So in my opinion, there's no real point in keeping him. But he was a half decent stopgap, but we don't want to be relying on players like him again in the future.
Let's be honest, that was probably his plan, wasn't it? If I can have a couple of good months here and get a 1-year deal, that'll probably do him then for retirement, won't it?
Yeah, exactly. Apparently he's on a fair whack as well, like wage-wise. He's on a pretty decent, because he was almost an emergency. Wolves were desperate at that time. They had to go in the free agent market. So yeah, we'll wait and see. At the moment, it sounds like he's not going to get a new deal, but there's still reports that Wolves are at least going to sit down with him and see what his plans are. But I think if Wolves say to him, look, you can stay, but you're going to be third or fourth choice, and he says yes, then fair enough. But I wouldn't be relying on him, like I said, to be in and around the first team on a regular basis.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, given the way that the season's panned out, I guess, under Lopetegui and the signs you've seen of improvements, what will be the expectation? Because you can now start, for you guys, you can start looking towards next season as well. What would be the expectations, maybe, if provides you have a decent summer going into next year?
I just hope that we can start, one, have much better form away from home as well. But start, looking up again and looking towards the top half of the table. I know there will be some fans talking about European football again, but that's just, for me, I just want to take it step by step. And last year under Bruno Lage, we did well, but the final season under Nuno, it was sort of similar to this season where we were sort of worrying about relegation up until sort of the final 4 or 5 games of the season. Lopetegui's done a brilliant job, and form-wise, we are, top half under him since he joined the club. So I hope he can just continue that, really. But the summer's going to be a really interesting one. I think there's going to be a lot of players, like I said earlier, leave the club, players that have probably been at Wolves for 3 or 4 plus years. So there's going to be a lot of change. So I'm just hoping that the players that he does sign, he's made it pretty clear he wants to sign players that want to be at Wolves. And that's why there's been some top players been left out on match day squads altogether. Like Jean Martino wasn't even a part of the squad last week. He said that was tactical, and that's just because he probably knows he's not going to be here next season. So there's no point in including him in the match day squad. So for me, I just want to look up and, try and get some better form away from home and become a top half team again, really.
Great. Okay. Well, let's cut to it in terms of the game then. So who do you expect to see in the starting 11? And give us a prediction, and I'll do the same.
It's difficult to pinpoint an exact 11, really, but I think Neves will definitely play a part in it. I'm hoping he'll go very similar squad to the last couple of weeks, when we beat Villa. But Dan Bentley is a goalkeeper that we signed in January as a backup to Jose Sarr, and he got his debut against United and actually played all right, so he may well start. The back four, I'd assume, will be unchanged. That'll be possibly Totti Gomez or maybe Hugo Bueno, the young Spanish left back, Semedo, Craig Dawson, Max Kilman. I think Lamina and Neves will be in there, Mateus Cunha and Diego Costa. And then the wide players, it could be anyone, really. I think Pedro Neto and Mateus Nunes have started there, but we could see Pablo Sarabia, who's not really played much. Adama Traoré is another player that, again, it could be his last game at Molineux as well. So I'd expect to see a lot of cameos of players who's, we may be seeing for the final time. Johnny is one as well, the fullback Johnny. So there's lots of players there. And in terms of prediction, I'd love to see Wolves win, but I think Everton are going to want it more than Wolves. So my head is probably saying, believe it or not, a 1-0 Everton win. But my heart is saying probably a 1-1 draw. I'd love to be proved wrong and Wolves get a win, but I just think Everton are going to want it more. And Dyche just seems to always get the better out of Wolves anyway.
I'm in a very similar mindset in terms of the prediction, but I'll come on to that in a moment. I don't expect to see any changes from a starting 11 point of view from Sean Dyche's perspective. Aside from potentially Mykolenko coming back in, I mean, it was described that the Mykolenko change. So Mykolenko, in case you didn't see it, he come out against City and Holgate played left back. Now, Holgate's bad enough as a centre back and a right back, but he got through under the bus by getting played left back against City. He was poor. I mean, in fairness to the lad, as I say, he's not a left back, but he was very poor, and he's taken off after about an hour. I hope to see Mykolenko come back in. He's a pretty decent defender, but doesn't offer you a lot going forward. So I reckon the back four pretty much picks itself in terms of it'll be Tarkowski and Mina centre back, Patterson right back, hopefully Mykolenko left back, and in the midfield will probably be Ghana Guy, James Garner, and Doucouré in the three, if you like, and then you've got Dwight McNeil on one side, Iwobi on the other side, and hopefully, I mean, 99% it should be Calvert-Lewin up top. And from us, the bit that concerns me in terms of the way the game might go is that this team particularly thrives on, playing counter-attacking football. Now, if you guys come forward early on, which Brighton done to us, then we might be okay. But if you try to, just dominate the game with possession and maybe don't commit too many men forward, which I gather, that's more of a Lopetegui type approach, it might be more difficult for us to break it down. Because we're not a team that we're blessed with a lot of guile and technical ability. it's more brute, direct, not necessarily all long ball, but it's directly get the ball in behind. Let's hit you with 3 or 4 passes as opposed to, being able to break you down with 10, 15, 20 passes. So again, I'm hoping that you do come on to us, given that it's your last home game and maybe the players are playing with a lot less pressure. It might be that the breaks are off, and for that reason, hopefully we might be able to pick you off a little bit on the counter. I'm with you a little bit. My head is saying 1-1. I think you guys will score, but I think we might get one as well. My heart is hoping for the 2-1. Where again we managed to get in front as we did at Brighton. You guys get one back, and we hang on. But listen, I think for us, we're looking at the opposition's fixtures as you do when you're down there, and there's every chance that if we win at Wolves, that'll guarantee our safety. A draw definitely puts us into that last game, either massively in jeopardy or with it in our hands. So it's a huge fixture for us. And I guess you'll be sitting there in the grounds almost relishing the fact that you're not involved in the mix.
Yeah, I was dreading, because we've got Arsenal on the final game, and I was dreading that their title race would go up to that point, which I think City should secure it before then, and us, be battling for relegation still. So I'm glad we're not there, and I know it's difficult probably to see Forest go down, but if Forest and Leeds go down, for me, I think that'd be a perfect end to the season. But I think Leicester probably will get. Unfortunately, I think Leicester will be the team that go down. But if you guys can stay up, but as long as Forest get dragged down, I'll be happy.
Yeah, I wouldn't be too disappointed to see Forest go down. I mean, I haven't got too much love for a lot of the teams down there. They're all throwing in appeals for financial fair play. We're getting us dot points and all that. So I hope they all go down, but that's not possible. But yeah, I agree. It's probably going to be Leicester with one of the other two. Hopefully not us. But no, listen, Dave, cheers for your time, mate. Appreciate it. Try and keep these to the minimum, but the detail from you has been brilliant. And again, I'm delighted for you guys that you've turned it around, and I look forward to seeing what goes on at the club next season. You've got a top manager, by the way. Top manager.
No, thank you. Fingers crossed. Obviously, we play again next season as well. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, hopefully so, mate. Well, cheers, Dave, and best of luck next weekend. I'll certainly catch you. Hopefully, catch you next season.
Yeah, cheers, Gary. Thank you, man.
Cheers.
Cheers.